Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to a very exciting edition of the Immigrant Magazine Weekly. I'm Pamela Anchang. Today, you and I will be answering this question. Is the United Kingdom trafficking humans like commodities? That is what some have characterized as the agreement made between Rwandan President Paul Kagame and United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson to process United Kingdom-bound asylum seekers in Rwanda. Human rights groups and refugee organizations have called it cruel, inhumane, and neo-colonial. The Prince of Wales, Prince Charles himself, has described it as appalling. So what do you think? My guests today have expert knowledge of the terrain and subject matter and will help us understand the uproar. So meet former Deputy CEO of Capital Market Authority of Rwanda and Africa Global Chamber of Commerce Chairman Olivier Kamanzi and Mr. Levi, an experienced African attorney in the United States who is passionate about contributing to constitutional development in Africa. Without further ado, first of all, do me the honors. If this is your first time visiting us, please click on the subscribe button here below so that you will receive this content and be notified. Ring the notification bell, like us so that YouTube will share our videos. Don't forget to do me the honors, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Pam and Chang, and like us on Facebook at the Immigrant Magazine. So let's get to it, answering the question, is the United Kingdom trafficking humans like commodities? So welcome, gentlemen, to this really exciting edition. Mr. Levi, how are you doing?
I'm fine, good morning.
Welcome. Mr. Olivier?
Hey, good morning, how are you? Good afternoon, is it here in Chicago? It's the afternoon, 2 p.m.
All right. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I know with the French culture, which I know that was the history of Rwanda, bonjour is bonjour at any time of the day, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but we're in the US and Rwanda is now a Commonwealth country, so let's do the Commonwealth style, I suppose, right?
Okay.
Yes. So I want you, Mr. Olivier, please tell us a little bit about what you do for your Chamber of Commerce and what you've done for Rwanda in the past.
Thank you so much for wonderful introductions, Pamela. It's a great pleasure to invite me. Also, greeting to Levi. It's a great pleasure to meet here. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Olivier Kamanzi. I was born in Rwanda. I grew up in Rwanda. However, I left in my 20s to study in Europe and then later on in the US. I'm chairman of Africa Global Chamber of Commerce. Also, I am an entrepreneur. I have an investment firm based here in Chicago. Also, a couple of companies in various African countries in the area of infrastructure, financial services, mining, and so on and so forth, agriculture and so on and so forth. So what I do today is connecting African diaspora to the continent. That's what the Chamber does. Our mission is to promote trades, investments, cultural exchanges, and education between Africa and the rest of the world. More of activities are done between Africa and the US. However, we do also some activities outside of the US. So in brief, that's all I can tell you. Also something maybe you need to know about me is a Pan-Africanist. Being that kind of a person, everything I do is related to benefiting Africa. And I think this conversation is about how do we go around these immigrants, African immigrants or other immigrants in the UK being sent back to Rwanda. Thank you again.
That's wonderful. That's why I thought you'd be perfect to have this conversation. You have all the credentials. Mr. Levi, a little bit about why you are so passionate about constitutional development in Africa. Just give us
I'm passionate about Africa and African affairs. Africa has always made a mistake in leadership. And we believe in strong political leaders as opposed to strong institutions. And we have the postmortem of Mobutu Sese Seko, Yesingbe Yedema, and so forth and so on in Africa. that have created false stability during their long reigns. And even, for example, in Nigeria after the Civil War, there was a military period that pretended this passive unity in Nigeria. And all the inevitable political discussions that should have been discussed and held were postponed, and the results is being born today. So I'm passionate about speaking about African issues to hopefully participate in the discussions for us to take a step towards creating lasting and sustainable institutions for the growth and opportunity in Africa.
Thank you so much for that little presentation about yourself. I'm glad you touched on something. You said strong leaders. Let's come now to Rwanda. President Kagame has been lauded by some and, portrayed as the liberator of Rwanda in a lot of ways, but some see him as a strong man and some see him as a tyrant. So which is it? Can we as Africans eat our cake and have it? Because a lot of people applaud, and we all applaud what he's done for Rwanda from the 1994 genocide and where Rwanda is now, encouraging tourists to come to Rwanda. There's so much, but some people say he's good only for those that toe the line. Levi, I want you to answer that before we go to—
Well, Kagame is not a new phenomenon in Africa. Kagame is reincarnation of Mobutu, Yesingbe Yedema, and the other African big men. He is part of the problem. He has created this false narrative in Rwanda, following the old models by forcefully creating this passive unity in Rwanda without actually crafting a solution in the hearts of Rwandans that what created a problem of genocide, which is a minority rule in Rwanda. He has glossed over it, and he's a Tutsi. The fact that he has been president for 20 years hasn't eradicated the feelings of the people, or whatever perception people have between Tutsis and Hutus is still in there, but it's hidden. So you need to confront that and make that part of the panoply of solutions that it should work now that he's alive, so that when he leaves office, the toils and labor that he claims he's doing will be guaranteed that going forward, that problem will not reignite. They're using military fiat and threats and arrest and incarceration. He just postponing the inevitable. That what will happen, look at Libya. After Gaddafi left, look at the problems but Libya was a model for African stability and so-called opportunity. But look at the problem. So I believe that Kagame is making the same mistake because he's too busy building himself, but he's going to die in the next few years.
Okay, while Levi is coming, let me defer to Mr. Olivier. Based on what Mr. Levi was saying, some say that he's repeating history in some ways in other countries where we've had strong men who stay in power forever. What do you think? Because some say that, Rwanda has the model for other African countries, is setting the pace for that. And some say the development in Rwanda is basically in Kigali, but in the suburbs, in the villages, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of struggle. You as a Rwandan, what's your assessment of the terrain?
Thank you so much, Pamela, for your question. There is one thing I have to agree from my brother, Levi, is Africa has been preoccupied in building strong leaders instead of building strong institutions. I think I agree with him about that. Also, I have to let you know, I've been part of building the Rwanda as we know it today, right? Developing financial sector of Rwanda. And also have to disclose that during a genocide, I lost almost entire members of my family, almost everybody, right? So it's something I want just to tell you. And when it comes to leadership in Africa, cross-border, it may be few, can take few countries, it still is a challenge for African development. That's we need to address the leadership in Africa, right? So as far as Rwanda is concerned, my concerns are how our leaders are able to build the next generation, people to take over when they are no longer in the office. I think that's what my brother is referring to when he talks about Mobutu and the other leaders who left. When they left, the countries are now in trouble, right? We can go on and then on and on. For the case of Rwanda, we need to put into perspective, right, where the Rwanda came from, right? From the beginning, everything was designed to have a government that is inclusive. And that's why we have a peace accord in Arusha. And there was an agreement when the president of Rwanda, the former president Habyarimana, was killed. When he was killed, again, the way the Rwanda was laid, it was laid a strong man, no strong institutions. When he was killed, the country was left without, let's say, somebody or some form of leadership to stop the killings, right? What I can just tell on my country is the same issues. If we look where we are going, development's going, everything's going, and we may face those same challenges if Kagame is not able to make sure he has the transition. If something is going to happen, who will be able to? Is he putting in place the institutions, the kind of leaderships, the country does not go back to where we came from? That is my concern. I'm not really concerned by individuals. I'm more concerned about people of Rwanda as a country. That's what we need to do, because many times we spend too much time on individuals and we miss the bigger picture. Where are we going? Even if this person is taken out, what do we do? Absolutely. Are we ready to take back our countries? That's I look into the bigger picture instead of looking at individuals. So we can. There's so much I can talk about him. So I think this conversation I would rather focus on discussing about immigrant. Maybe we can have another meeting to discuss. Absolutely. But it has to go back in the background, and then we can have a very thorough discussions and the conversation about him.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that background. So, Mr. Levi, can you hear us?
Levi, I'm not hearing.
Okay. Are you trying to come in as Kwame Oku? I see someone coming in.
That's fine. I'm good now. I lost the audio for a minute.
Okay, wonderful. Because I was going to come back to you now to talk about now. We have set the tone for or lay down the foundation of where Rwanda is. So I want us to talk about the agreement between Rwanda and the United Kingdom on the asylum seekers. Mr. Oku, can you in a nutshell summarize what that agreement is?
Well, that agreement just shows that Mr. Kagame has become a lapdog and in a way victim of high-stake British policy and politics. And he being the weakest link in the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, he has come from the Francophone culture to the Commonwealth family of countries. And don't think that for a minute it was not a deliberate ploy by British policymakers. They understood and they know that it has some sort of Francophony disease, a neo-colonial, I guess I may say, inferiority complex. So they probably zeroed on him and he fell for it. And so they dangled a few dollars for him and he has decided to accept this catastrophic policy because himself is not a kind person. His heart is not clean. Look at the way he treats his political opponents in Rwanda. There's no room for national discourse. It is what his wishes and caprices is the law. So he has a natural resentment towards opposition political thought. So here now, the British policymakers sense that in him and approach him, and he fell for it. And it's a catastrophic thing because it's unsettling the apple cart of what humanities have come to create as a safeguard for political dissent in the world in the past 80 years. And for him to be the linchpin to destroy these very important ingredients of life, of opportunity, and for political dissent in the world, is going to go down in history as the coward that he is.
Well, catastrophic is the expression that Mr. Levi has summarized this. Mr. Olivier, I want to defer to you. I mean, the refugee problem in Africa is very serious. I mean, you and I, we all three of us are migrants. We're immigrants in the United States, and some have come to the United States seeking asylum. They're refugees. I mean, it's a global issue. So you would think that an African country accepting refugees should be a good thing. However, even the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Filippo Grandi, has dismissed this proposal to process United Kingdom bound asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing, has called it all wrong. What is your opinion on this as a Pan-Africanist that you are and as a Rwandan?
Thank you so much, Pamela. Let's take back. I'd like to really give a perspective for what are we really observing today as far as this immigrant this agreement between UK and the government of Rwanda. When I say government of Rwanda, I mean this was not referred to Parliament for a Parliament to approve. That's something this was done by the government of Rwanda. Let's say what happens today, we have what I call so-called illegal immigrant in UK, whether you are an African immigrant or whether you are wherever you're coming from, you are being sent back to Rwanda according to this agreement, right? Everyone arriving in the UK, when you are an illegal immigrant, you are going to be sent to Rwanda, right? So that's what this agreement is about. Also, according to information I have, and I can't disclose the source, the agreement that was signed was based on the proposal by Rwanda to UK government, all right? And however, as you can recall also, this is not new to everybody. There is a similar agreement with Israel and Rwanda, and also there is another discussions between Denmark and the government of Rwanda, all right? So, and that's what it is. The UK want to send back illegal immigrant. The Rwanda claim is government, I'm saying, the government of Rwanda is based on a historical background for refugees. Most of people in power in Rwanda today were immigrant. One day they were immigrant around the world. Now they came back after genocide that took place in 1994. Based on that experience being a refugee outside of Rwanda, the government of Rwanda felt that there has to have a compassion to receive immigrants. That's what did everything started. We have seen some, what you call it, so-called illegal immigrant from Israel sent to Rwanda a couple of years ago. Some of them have been settled in various countries around the world. Most of them, there were around 500 immigrants, if I'm not mistaken. I'm cautious about the numbers, but majority of them are no longer in Rwanda. They are out of Rwanda. So now we, with this program, this illegal immigrant being sent to Rwanda, this is a precedent because before, well, those who were African immigrants, right, in Israel And then also Denmark, I think they're talking about African immigrants, right? So this one is different because people got being sent to Rwanda coming from all over the world. So there are different views of Rwandans. The Rwandans, those who support the government, they are saying it's a good thing. We have to be compassionate. We need to support refugees, wherever they come from. We need to welcoming them. And then those in opposition or government, they are saying, we don't know who are coming. Maybe they committed the crimes from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, from wherever they're coming from. Did we check their backgrounds? Are we comfortable when they arrived in Rwanda? They don't cause, let's say, instability in the country or the safety to Rwandan people. Those are what the opposition in Rwanda they're saying. So my position as a Rwandan is that being an African, I think we have to receive our people. It makes sense to, if we have an African immigrant being mistreated everywhere in the world, it makes sense any country can receive them. If their own country where they come from are not ready to receive them, there is no reason we be mistreated outside of the continent, right? It makes sense to me welcoming our own brothers and sisters to any country, receiving them. I don't see anything wrong about it, right? The question for me is, if anyone decide to immigrate from your original country, go to another country, there is a reason why. We need to look at the root cause. Why would you leave Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq, go to UK, not to France, not to Rwanda originally? We need to look into that. That's what I can, for now, I can say.
Yeah, that's incredible background right there. So I want to defer to you, Levi. The Rwanda is a Commonwealth country to all intents and purposes. And if you look at the tenets of the Commonwealth, is also human rights and treating people well and all whatnot. And here we are, though. I'm hearing terms like illegal immigrants. We also know the mask of the asylum seekers. We also hear the excuse of a way to deter smuggling into the United Kingdom and deaths. And it sounds all like it's about human rights. But the history has shown that Rwanda has not been very good in how it's been treating its refugees or, asylum seekers in Rwanda itself, because even the Israelis who have sought refuge in Rwanda complain. At one time, there was even a situation where the police brutally killed refugees in Rwanda, and they said it was because of agitation. So give us in a nutshell, because we need to shut this down, answer the question, is this a form of trafficking of immigrants, or is it still in line with human rights rule?
First of all, I think it's in accord with human trafficking, because there is a contract price of, I suppose, about $157 million. And that is the motivating factor on the part of the Rwandan government. This has nothing to do with Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is a multi-jurisdictional organization. So this is a bilateral agreement between, so-called agreement between Rwanda and Britain. I don't see how they sat together in a room as equal partners, with Rwanda approaching them with this sordid and absurd proposition. It has to have come from the British, because after all, they've been in this game for centuries. They know how to manipulate. And the only thing that I'm surprised is, until then, I thought that Kagame was a very smart person. But for him to have fallen for this, for a few dollars that will not last, how do you now suppose that somebody that have left Syria with intent and purposes to resettle in England somehow ends up in Rwanda? How does that create friendship between that man and that man's family and Rwanda? When Rwanda is now become is an obstructionist in people's hopes and dreams, why should Rwanda, who is not even a contiguous country with England, be the graveyard of English policy, and which, if you look, is discriminatory How come they are not sending the Ukrainians to Rwanda?
Good question.
They should send the Ukrainians to Rwanda. They are not. They've limited it to Ethiopians, Nigerians, other Africans, and other poor peoples, non-white populations of the world, Muslims. That is the whole thing. That is their linchpin. So it's a discriminatory policy, which is pejorative to Africans. How come they didn't choose France, where they will have these people locked up in France? How come they didn't choose any European country somehow, or choose America for that matter? They choose Rwanda because there's unequal bargaining power. And so let's see it for what it is. It's human trafficking. The Rwanda government have decided to cast a greedy net on the fate and destinies of poor Africans all over the world. And that should be rejected.
Amen, should be. Last word to you, Mr. Olivier. Quick question for you. Some see this as setting a dangerous precedent. As a Pan-Africanist and chairman of the Africa Global Chamber of Commerce, what do you see?
What I see is, as most of you, there is something that has happened in Africa, very unique. When the 54 countries came together, African leaders, something they have achieved, which we have to commend, this Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that brings all of us together. Because we can blame, but also have to give a credit where it's due. That was positive. Now, I think our leaders have to come together, address the issue for immigration, our young people. As you know, the youth, over 65% of population of African youth, of African population are young people under 25 years old. So we cannot go on and on. Somehow, a country like Rwanda finding, we have a solution for all Africans. That is wrong. We need to have a comprehensive strategy vis-a-vis to these young illegal immigrants, people leaving the country. Why are they leaving the continent to begin with? We need to address the root cause of why young people are leaving the continent.
So in one sentence, what do you say? Is this a precedent on immigration all over the world or not? Is it a good precedent or not?
It's not.
All right. Thank you. We'll have to continue this conversation some other time, but this is what I have to say because my audience has to answer this question. Is President Kagame, who is known to stand up to the West and a leader beloved by many, and yet criticized as an autocratic leader, is he just a man of goodwill, being duped by Britain like many other African leaders, or is he a hero in this matter? Levi, what do you say? Yes or no? Hero or villain?
It's a villain.
Thank you. Olivier, what do you say? That's your president. What do you say?
I don't respond on that.
Sans commentaire. On that note, thank you, gentlemen. This has been a great conversation. We'll have to continue this conversation. Be sure to come back. Thank you so much for joining me and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of our show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if so, please share your opinions with me in the comment section or send me an email at publisher@immigrantmagazine.com. I hope that you subscribe and invite others to subscribe to this new and revolutionary channel, Team TV, Voice of Immigrants in America. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram @Anchang and like us on Facebook, The Immigrant Magazine. See you next time on Immigrant Magazine Weekly.